Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to learn the secrets of thriving to flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest founded and oversees Wells Property Group and Wells Property Management. The companies are vertically aligned, offering construction management, renovation, leasing, property management, maintenance, asset management, and syndications. He currently manages a portfolio of 80 buildings valued over $300 million. Currently, he is building a 61-unit mid-rise multifamily project in permit for 53-unit site and renovating several existing value-add multifamily properties. He serves on numerous boards and advisory councils and contributes to many leadership efforts. He volunteers with his favorite charity, the Good Times Project, whose vision is to create caring spaces for families who have been affected by childhood cancer. Welcome to the show, Preston Walls.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Preston, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I feel honored to have a person of your stature on my fledgling show. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Well, my pleasure. I've enjoyed listening to your previous episodes and just the personal side of real estate business that you go after. That it's not all about deal. It's not all about the business. There's a lot that goes into it, and I appreciate that you're looking at it from a different angle.
Well, thank you for sharing that and saying that. I truly appreciate that. A lot of things I want to get into. I certainly want to get into your life, but before we get into exactly who you are, tell us a little bit about the Good Times project, as it seems to be something very close to your heart and something I'd be interested in knowing a bit more about.
Yeah, when I was 10, I was diagnosed with acute lymphocytic leukemia, ALL. It's a childhood, or it's a blood disorder that is predominant in pediatric patients. And as part of the coping and recovery process, a big part of hospitalization, especially during school years, is being out of a school environment and out of a social setting where you're growing and progressing with your peers, and that was a hard time. In many ways, the isolation from chemotherapy and being a pediatric patient helped prepare for COVID. But at that time, as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, it was hard to go through, and Camp Good Times is a camp for children who have or have had cancer and a sibling to go away for a week in just a social setting where everyone kind of understands that facet of life, and so cancer is the shared experience that everyone has at the camp, and it was tremendously formative and valuable during those years of my life. So I was a camper there until I aged out and became a counselor after that. And then more recently, I've been supporting the camp financially through their fundraising events, and I just joined their board, and I go back to camp to help volunteer on their fishing outings. They take a couple cabins of kids, mixed group of ages, and hop on a bus, sing camp songs on the bus to the local sportsman's club, where they have a stocked trout pond, and kids get to go fishing there. It's been a a really valuable and rewarding journey for me.
Wow, I could tell from your resume that that was close to your heart. I had no idea how close to your heart that really was. Well, let's go back to that childhood experience and let's explore it just a tad bit more. You talked briefly there about the isolation experience. How long did that actually go on for you?
I was on treatment for 3 years, and it wasn't it wasn't a linear 3 years. It starts out uh, starts out really really intense, and I'd say for the first month I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for the first month, and then the next 3 months it was in a week, out a week, and by the 6 month mark, it had trailed off tremendously. I was had a planned hospitalization week, one week every 5 months, and it was just outpatient treatment for there. So after 6 months, I could more or less get back to a more normal routine. But yes, challenging time.
In more ways than one, I'm quite certain. So, I mean, I often start off the show without asking my guests to share a formative experience from their childhood. Clearly, this had to be one of the most, well, traumatic experiences of your childhood, and therefore probably one of the most formative experiences. Not only, I'm sure, were you feeling the isolation there, but I can imagine, I mean, even adults diagnosed with cancer have to deal with, well, tremendous amounts of terror. I mean, it's a life-threatening condition. Um, and I can imagine that as a child, that was just magnified. How did you deal with that as a child?
So one of the characteristics of just being in the hospital, having very little immune system due to the drugs you're receiving, is isolation and being alone, and so you're forced to become comfortable looking inwardly and just being alone with yourself. And I think that had a tremendous influence in creating my activities that I enjoyed doing. Just how I problem solve. And I problem solve internally. I tend to think inwardly first, rather than reaching out or expressing or soliciting feedback or input. Yeah, my activities I enjoy doing myself, and it also it helped set me up for challenges later in life. The round of cancer as a child was not my only one. 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma as well. So it just gave me some experience to go through that treatment, and it's much less scary to go through something a second time when you have some amount of confidence in the outcome the first time. You know a little bit how your body and your mind is going to respond to the experience.
Well, cancer at any time of life is a disruptive experience. Um, you were 10 years old and you were dealing with this from essentially 10 to 14. Is that what you were saying? It was about a 4-year
Yes,
process
yeah.
there? Yeah. So that was an extraordinarily disruptive process in your life at a very crucial point in your life. And yet you have come through this and have come to be a very successful adult. How did you manage to pull your life together and to to actually be able to come out of that and find a focus and a direction that has led you to your success?
I think through that question around uh, goal setting, and when something happens to you externally that really shifts what is possible, you're forced to just to rethink it. So one thing, I remember in sixth grade we had the timed mile. So everyone in PE class was running the mile, and I I was going at 100%, like everything I had into it. I was the last person to finish, and 10 minutes was my mile time,
Mhm.
and that had a really just a profound impact on me. Hey, uh, this thing has happened that's really limited what I can do. So to to prove to myself that this is temporary, and that I'm not only gonna get past this, but I'm gonna resolve to be stronger. I I'm gonna uh, focus on my mile time, and that led to running cross country, which led to doing marathons, which led to doing Ironman triathlons, and uh, it just led to all sorts of other um, fitness fitness goals that I made I may not have uh, chosen to achieve or try if I hadn't had that initial setback. And so that's translated to professional goals, right? You have a setback of any sort. um, things don't go your way. How do you respond? How do you come back from that? And how do you ultimately improve and go on to a larger success after that setback?
Viewers and listeners just tuning in today, my guest is Preston Walls, and we are going into his amazing life here. Uh, Preston, well, you've done some extraordinarily amazing things given the odds that were set against you. Not only did you physically conquer the leukemia from early in your life, you became uh, a triathlon competitor and a skier, a wake surfer, all kinds of physical things that you have done to help overcome that. But I'm impressed beyond that in terms of the business that you have put together. You are into construction management, renovation, leasing, property management, maintenance, uh, management, and syndication. Many of us would be happy just to be successful in one of those areas. Uh, how have you taken those early major setbacks in your life to come to this point where you can be such a success in such a broad array of activities?
Well, they built on one another and they grew on top of one another. So I I started in the industry in 2002. I uh, moved back to Seattle, and I was worked with my father for 6 years in the real estate business, and you know, renovating buildings, managing buildings. During that time, we did a ground up project together, and so I learned the development side of the business from him through doing the project. And each aspect of the business uh, has pluses and minuses, right? Development, for example, is extremely fun. It's exciting. You're changing the skyline of your city, your location. It's tremendously creative. There's this like real tangible component to it, but at the same time it's extraordinarily risky, and the cycles are very long between purchasing a piece of dirt and getting to lease up. It ties up a lot of capital. There's political risk. There's a lot of market risk. So you can't do it all the time. I would not want to be a developer as my sole focus of business, because it's very volatile. So property management comes in there as, you know, it's a stable, steady business in good markets and bad markets. It helps keep the lights on and just provide a steady revenue stream. Keep everyone employed for when you need them on the next upswing to hit the ground running and get out there. And you know, same thing with construction management on renovation projects. I was doing a lot of the construction management as a project manager, and it takes a lot of time, and so I had the knowledge and the skill to be able to coach someone into that role, and so I brought someone in, and he was able to build out a team to handle that and to work on the projects that we were doing, and take on some other projects as well. So I think it's a snowball that builds. You learn one skill, and you figure out what pieces that you want to keep, and you acquire the next skill and just put them all together, and that's how your business grows.
Well, we're coming to the end of our time here, Preston, and I feel like I have just begun to pick your brain here, and I appreciate you allowing me to do that. But you have a very fascinating story, and I really am interested in digging even deeper into your psyche here. But unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. But one thing I want to go into before we conclude here is that many of the people in this business, and many of the people that I talk to on my podcast, tend to be on the extroverted side of the personality coin. And in my brief conversations with you here, I can tell that just is not the case with you. So tell me what it is like being an introvert in a predominantly extroverted culture.
Uh, I love your question. Good for you for yeah, really getting at underlying traits. I mean, so much of real estate is sales driven, right?
Mhm.
Being the brokerage industry thrives on sales. Sales traits succeed, and I I I would not excel in a brokerage environment. That's uh, that's not my strength. Even leasing, whether certainly on a commercial leasing, but even residential leasing, apartment leasing is a sales job. Um, and I I I would also not excel at being a leasing agent. But I recognizing those weaknesses has allowed me to hire the right people um, for those roles. And sales traits are something that we screen for quite carefully in leasing roles. And the question the question that everyone gets for a sales role is, sell me this pen, right? Whatever it is, go through the sales process. And the sales process is very regimented and succinct. Qualify the buyer, to find out what they want. Describe the offering. So what sets it apart? Uh, close the deal, ask for the sale, and then the 4-step overcome objections. Right? Here are all the reasons why I'm not going to do it. So combating those. So being able to recognize complementary strengths in other people that are part of the team. Uh, that's what's helped me help me balance being a quieter voice on the team, and probably not suitable for a number of roles that I could be in.
Well, introverts contribute a great deal more to our culture and our society than what we're given credit for. But thank you for being on the program today, Preston. I have one last question that I ask all of my guests. And before we get to that, share with our viewers and listeners how it is that they can get in touch with you.
Yes, my email is preston@wallspropertymanagement.com, or LinkedIn is my preferred network to get in touch. Please reach out to me there, Preston Walls.
Well, Preston, my last question today is, when you come to the end of this life's journey, how do you want your epitaph to read?
I love this question. It's a tough one. I and my response ties in quite nicely to your previous question. I want to go out of this world quietly. So I don't envision a headstone for myself. I don't want to take up space after this life is over. But I certainly hope my life will be remembered by the people and the lives that touched and impacted.
I know it will be. It looks to me like you are on a path of a life certainly worth living. I'm like you. I'm actually planning for a green burial, and I just want my body to just rot away and go back to the soil that it came from. It's been a delight being with you, Preston.
Alan, likewise. Thank you so much for doing this, for putting this together, and yes, I love your format and the show.
I hope we can get back together real soon here and continue
That would be
the
great.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.